Now we're going to discuss facilitating community in difficult times, aka times of COVID, as you all know. So thank you, Emily, for being here. We have Emily and Nichole, and we're going to have a community discussion. So, hi, Emily, how are you?
Good, thank you.
How's it going? So,
can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
cool.
Yeah. So, Nichole, since you were the first to appear, so can you please, I'm going to ask each one of you to introduce herself. So, broad introduction, and then we're going to go with the specific questions. Okay. So go ahead, Nichole. The floor is yours.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Nichole. I'm from Dallas, Texas. Of course, I've traveled extensively and participated in mostly couch surfing for about 10 years now, and have hosted around 300 travelers. I've been very active in hosting community events in Dallas with the couch surfing community, as well as participating in as many events as I can overseas in neighboring cities and that sort of thing. So it's definitely been quite an interesting time during COVID. Definitely some things have changed. I've been lucky enough to be in Texas. So I think my viewpoint is probably a little bit different than other parts of the States, and especially in places that are more locked down like Europe or Asia. So things have been a little interesting recently, but we're still going strong, and I'm excited to see that all of these hospitality networks are coming together finally. I know that we are, different name-wise, but we all want the same thing, and it's nice to see everybody, getting together and trying to reach those goals.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. Nice to have you. So, sorry, Nichole. I'm sorry, I'm confusing names. So, Emily, now can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Emily. I'm an ex-nomadic ambassador for Couchsurfing. I'm no longer with Couchsurfing. I've been banned for a variety of reasons, but I'm proud of all those reasons. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fighter. I really don't appreciate what Couchsurfing has done to the community in a lot of places. I started out in Japan. I was a event organizer for the weekly meeting in Hiroshima for about a year. If any of you guys came through Hiroshima, maybe you saw me there. I've also hosted events in New Zealand and Australia, where I've been living for the past couple of years, but now I'm in Istanbul, Turkey, where is my home base. So back home finally. And I agree that we all really want the same thing. And I do think there's some places where we can collaborate to achieve it. Currently with Couchers full time, pretty much, even though I'm a volunteer, I spend maybe like 20 hours a week on the project. I love it. I'm really dedicated. I'm one of over 100 volunteers that we have working for Couchers. So really great, fun place, fun community. We've got a growing community now that's all totally virtual. I don't think we've done any in-person community events yet. So I can speak from that perspective if people have questions.
Thank you, Emily. So I have a question for both of you, so we can start maybe with Nichole. So how has it been for you? Because I myself, I have been hosting events in difficult times, and it was very challenging, So I know that the transition from in-person to online can be a bit tricky, especially if you're not used to organizing, nobody was used to it, I think, But I think following the proverb, you either grow or you die, right? So I think it applies on everything, including the HospEx, the platforms and everything. So what was it like for you, Nichole, to the switch from online, to organize events and in times of difficulty?
There is another ambassador in Dallas that kind of took over that portion of it, just because I'm definitely more of an in-person events type of person. I prefer to, do live person events rather than be in front of a screen. So especially for me, it was difficult. And I found that instead of being, in my home alone, it was a lot easier to gather a group of people that was still comfortable. Of course, it might have been smaller, but we would all meet at somebody's house or flat, and then we would join the online discussions all together. So I thought that that was a better solution than maybe doing it alone, especially for people that like to be in groups. So I would say our group was pretty active. The majority did participate in Zoom events with different hospitality networks throughout the time. It's phased out a little bit now that we're having more in-person events. And then, you know, from week to week, we would have more people be uninvolved and drop out. So it was difficult to keep everyone together and, you know, keep them going and joining these discussions. So I feel like rather than meeting with our locals, we were talking to people all over the world, which is great because we weren't doing that before. And now those interactions have extended on, friendships have been made, and there are new groups of people out there. But it was definitely an interesting transition that not all were too excited about and not everybody did participate in.
So I think, yeah, like there's like mixed like feelings about this, because on the one hand, like we all, I think nobody, like if it weren't for COVID, for this pandemic, nobody would have gone like switched to online, right? But I think like online also, like it has so many, there are so many incredible opportunities out there. Like I would never personally have connected with either of you if it weren't for the pandemic, for example. And if I didn't like accept to make the transition, to try something new and to adapt, I think adapting and adjusting is a key word, like in this, all of this, you know. Thank you, Nichole. And I'm really happy that like for like in the US and in a lot of countries, like the vaccination, they're going like more and more people, they're getting vaccinated, and things are reopening and like more faster because of that. Thank you, Nichole. What about you, Emily? How has the transition been like for you?
Right. So I didn't really have much of a transition to speak of because I wasn't able to keep doing my weekly event because I left Japan for the pandemic and arrived in a really small town in New Zealand. And although there was no lockdown ever in New Zealand, the couchsurfing community has been dead in New Zealand for quite some time. As many can probably attest, if you've ever tried to find a host in New Zealand, like good luck, because you're not going to find one easily. But even like I have 400 references and I'm an ambassador, like no chance. It's really hard. So I tried to do a weekly event there, and I realized pretty quickly like my time was better spent doing a weekly event for couchers, because what happened is we were still getting a lot of interest early on from people who really just met us virtually and heard about us virtually. Nowadays, maybe people are hearing about us from word of mouth more, like in person, but at the beginning, most people heard from us from Reddit or Facebook or our website or whatever. And now that we had this community forum growing, where this is where we're doing the majority of our community building right now, is our forum is really active. There's people commenting about every aspect of HospEx. It's not too unlike the summit in a way. It's like just ongoing every week. And every time something comes up where there's something going on with couch surfing or people want a feature for couchers, they make a thread and we discuss it. And hopefully, with some luck, if the timing is right, we can get the same people to join our weekly meeting and actually have that discussion in person. So we've managed to have weekly events every week since I think October or September. And we've got a great, interesting, like local community of like volunteers who join the event every week. And then randos who show up from the forum, or some people are just community members who are interested in the project who come week to week. And I know a few of them are here, so shout out to you guys. Thanks for coming. But we had like a really great feeling. I got the really great feeling that it's actually not unlike an in-person couchsurfing weekly event, because you always get that. You get people you've seen a few times who come once a month or drop in every now and then, or you get people you've never seen before and will never see again. But you have to sort of maintain the same sense of like, this is us, this is who we are, this is what we do every week. You can come back anytime. And I think it's going to continue even after things go back to being kind of more in person, just because of the global nature of our meetup right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and how it changes once there's more community features on our platform.
Thank you. I personally, like a lot of my CS friends, like they switched to couchers. Like I personally, like I didn't have time to even to make the transition yet, because I have my events like from Polyglot I schedule every week on Facebook. But I think it's very interesting, and I'm coming to the question now, Emily. Now. Yeah, so I think it's very interesting, and I congratulate you for like for whatever you're doing, you know. And I think it's important, no matter like after the CS like Bandy event, like I had to switch to like other platforms, like to use like the WhatsApp groups I'm part of. And the kind of like, I think what I liked about what Marcel said earlier, it's all, this is all about like emphasizing the importance of us sticking together, you know, whether it's couch surfing, couchers, you name it, right? So that's all, we're all gathered around the passion for bringing people together. You know, this is what I do personally. So the question, going back to the question that I shared in the chat, so are there any couchers community groups evolving? Any events planned for the future?
Yeah, we have a weekly event every Sunday and every Tuesday. You guys can find info about them on our forums. The times will be different for all of you, so I won't even attempt to remember what the time is in UTC. But we have weekly events. They're only an hour and they're really short and sweet, and we just kind of chat. But I think what's good about them, even if you're not interested in joining couchers, is like if you're having a problem or like you have an issue with couch surfing, like we're the people you want to vent to, because we love hearing about that. But also, you know, if you've been banned from couch surfing or any of those things, like you'll find a home at Couchers, because we're all in the same boat right now and we don't all know why. It's for various reasons. Some of us don't really know how it happened. Others, it's kind of obvious, but you know, some people get banned and they actually never hear back from support. And that's not a good situation to be in. And we're the community that's trying to support each other through that. I just wanted to respond to something you said earlier, Sarah, about how we want to keep the whole community together or finding a place to stick together. I think in saying that, like each of our platforms that are out here, like I've been listening to everybody tonight, and I think there's a space for everybody, but I think each of the platforms do have like kind of a specific kind of community they want to attract. And I think one of the issues we found is that like attracting that community in this like digital space has been like really kind of challenging for us. You know, we want to be really inclusive. We want to be really diverse. We're really focused on women's issues and women's safety and like how we can make our platform more safe for women. We want more women's voices. We want more diverse voices. We want non-binary people, you know, people from LGBTQ spectrum, people from different parts of the world. We really want those people to like be joining in. And I don't think that community is really sticking together as well. And I just wanted to mention that I think it's more likely for them to get fractured, like that community to fracture. And I just wanted to say that we're really hoping that more people who feel that maybe they weren't listened to in whatever community they were in, or they were a minority before, will come and share with us what they would want, you know?
Thank you. And Melissa, I have a question, like it might be a little bit just like slightly off topic. So like, what's like the main difference between couchsurfing and couch surfing? I mean, like it's more or less the same name, you know. For me, I'm on CS for like over 4 years. What's the main difference? Like why?
The main difference is that we are building it with like the community in mind, and we're community focused. I think that is the core difference. Like we want to build something the community wants. We don't want to ever upset them. We want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. We can't incorporate every single thing that's suggested to us, but we're listening and we're responding and explaining why. Transparency, being honest, being clear about our intentions. I mean, couchsurfing does none of these things. Couchsurfing has stabbed the community in the back at every turn. And it's just one of the things that we're aspiring to like never, ever do. Just always, and even down to like why you were banned. Like we haven't had to ban anyone on couchers yet, thankfully. But if that ever happened, like we're always thinking about ways we can make this super transparent and easy to understand about what's going on, what we expect, what our values are. I think couchsurfing has lost sight of its mission. It's just run astray and everybody's just not sure what's going to happen with it, but we are not going to let that happen to our community. That's our main differentiator, I think.
Great strategy. I mean, yeah, like you should never like lose the unity and the cohesion to it. Yeah, that's a very good. Thank you, Emily. So Nichole, what about you? Like I more or less have the same question. Like what has been like, has it been like for you? I know like you told me like the in-person events are coming back and everything, but what do you think like would be like a sustainable way to maintain the community spirit within your like for your platform?
Well, I definitely think currently I am a member still of, I was banned. Somehow magically, I got back onto couch surfing, and I was banned for sharing the WhatsApp group so that we could facilitate an in-person event. So I wasn't sure that I was going to come back. And that makes it really difficult to communicate with other people that you might not have their contact information otherwise. So having all these different platforms, unless you're a part of all of them, it's kind of hard to, group everybody together. So I think events like today and just having shared events with all of our teams would be great. That way, if somebody is doing a CS only, not really CS only, but facilitated by couch surfing event, we could invite couchers, we could invite trust groups, people to join. So I think it's important to just keep doing what we're doing right now and keep the discussion going between everybody, individually and together.
Thank you, Nichole. So, so like for you, for both of you, like now I'd like to have like kind of like group discussion, if that's okay with you. So, so like for you, whether it's couchers or I'm sorry for his name. So, or for you, like for your platform, Nichole, I think like the most important thing, like you said, it's to come together, right? And to emphasize, like to not kind of like have any kind of like limitation or restriction, right? What do you think about this, Emily? Like for example, me, like I'm part of 18 different groups and clubs, worldwide. And I'm proud, like I think every time like I wear like, like like the metaphor you put on different hats, like every time, and I truly feel, although I've never hosted before, I've never traveled even before. I know it might sound shocking, but I feel like the spirit of couch surfing. I'm from Tunisia,
Yeah.
but I feel like couch surfing, like no, not like the couch surfing, like the name, but I feel like the sense of community is very, very deep, like we are truly a family, even if I see my friends like here and everything, we are like, we have that bond, even like after, I don't know, after months and months of not having seen each other, because of COVID. So, do you think like, do you think you, Emily, for example, you will have like, that like you have that vision. I understood that you do have that vision for cultures,
Yeah.
like do you
Yeah. I
think,
mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think the vision is something like recapturing the couch surfing spirit, but not letting it get corrupted by the commercialization of couch surfing. I mean, most of us that are involved in the development of couchers have been on couch surfing for 5 or 10 years. I mean, with the exception of very few people, like most people were hosts. It turns out that hosts are more passionate about creating something that would be kind of a couch surfing equivalent, but with new improvements and the features working correctly and a focus on community. Like as a host, like I'm first and foremost a host before an event organizer, and I think that I like organizing events for my guests. Like part of the appeal is like I have guests and I bring them to my event and I introduce them to other people, or I go to the event if I don't have a surfer and I hope that there's someone there who needs a couch. And so this is the vision there, is that will always happen. Like no longer will you be kind of wondering where to go when you arrive in a city, or that you won't be able to find a host, because there'll be a network, a community built to help you. Like you arrive, you can message one person and that person can give you a list of other people who can host you if they can't. I mean, this is the old couchsurfing spirit that a lot of us miss, right? Like you never feel really alone when you arrive. So I think that spirit is meant, we're hoping to capture it and keep it going by not letting those really good hosts, like some of the people we've seen tonight who've, like Anya, for example, who's a really great long-term host who just got banned, even though she was a key member of her community. Like those are the people we want to make sure they have the right support so that we have them.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, that's the spirit. So Nichole, there is a question to you. You just shared in the chat. So Do you know like if other communities are meeting in the States, or the communities in other parts of Texas meeting now? And did you see, I know it's a lot of questions and all in one, did you see a change in your community after the couch surfing paywall?
It's kind of hard to answer that last question specifically, just because we've got COVID going on, and then that was another issue. I know that everybody was talking about it and was, definitely not happy. So there was a lot of ruckus going on. Whether or not those people did anything, I'm not sure. There were people that were not as active in the community that I hadn't seen. After whatever happened in 2012, the community here definitely kind of fell apart, and we had to recreate it. So I did know of a few people that left CS after the paywall issue came to be. Our community here in Dallas was pretty strong. And I think that COVID specifically is the reason that is not as many people are coming. But we do have a lot of new members in this group since the recreation of our group. I would say we've got a new group after it's been around for maybe a little over a year, about 2 years now. So they're not people that have had that long history to get as upset about it as some of us.
So I'm sorry, I'm reading like also comments. People like are WhatsApping us, a lot of comments coming. So thank you, Nichole. So we have also feedback. So like from Fred, he says he thinks we need like to have a serious discussion about providing security to female members. What do both of you think? What do you think about this, Emily?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nichole.
A really important issue in couchers and trust roots as well. That's been a big discussion. And I know a lot of it comes down to common sense. I would say pretty much all of the couch surfing horror stories that I have heard, I looked at the person in question's profile and I would not have ever hosted this person or interacted with them. So I think a lot of it is just people don't really know kind of how to gauge a profile, what to look for, what to stay away from. So I think that if all of these platforms maybe had some sort of educational video or something that you could read when you sign up, really, what is our community about? How do you be safe? And things like this. So the education needs to be there, and I don't think that it is currently. It does seem that I know couchers and trust roots are focusing on this issue heavily, so I'm really glad to see that and some new ideas, because there are people that get turned off of a hospitality exchange site just because they had a negative experience or they heard somebody else, and it really could be avoided. And then moderation, better moderation, and things like that are important too. So if we have more people in our community, rather than just the official moderators, but just like on our Dallas WhatsApp group, if there's anything weird that happens, you're off the WhatsApp group. We're not telling you where our event is. We don't post the locations publicly all the time. So you kind of have to go through, a little bit of a security process. That way we make sure that everybody is comfortable and safe at our events.
Thank you. Thank you, Nichole. Now, what do you think about this, Emily? How can you like provide security to female members?
Sure. Well, one of the things we've noticed is that there's what we call like survivorship bias in this, because I used to be of the mind that I was like, well, I can handle a guy creeping on me. Like, I don't, like, you should just get braver. But really, it turns so many women away from HospEx in general that I've come around completely. I've done a total 180 on this. A lot of people I've talked to who do not participate in couch surfing really just said the simple fact of like, oh, well, the first message I got was from a creepy dude who was inviting me to sleep at his house. So I just didn't want to use it. And then it kind of sunk into me that there's so much that we can do to prevent that kind of thing. So one of the things we're working on really heavily, and Maria mentioned this earlier in one of the previous panels, is that we are going to have, in our final version, not the beta is not the final version yet, but you'll see that you'll be able to choose who you show your profile to. If you don't want to interact with men at all on the platform, that's going to be an option for you on Couchers. Like, you can have women only events. Your profile can be hidden from men in searches, or you can, show it sometimes and not other times. it's really going to be more customizable to your safety level and what you feel safe and comfortable with. So I think this is going to be a huge leap, because, you know, then there won't be as much of that misunderstanding there. Like, you won't have as many cases where somebody's getting creepy, weird messages and they don't want them, or they can't, or they're like turned off by them. But I also think you'd have, you know, a little bit more empowerment for women to feel like they can just use Hospitality Exchange the way women want to. And, you know, Hostess Sister was a great platform on Facebook, but they've closed it down, and I don't know what's going to happen there. But we're hoping that we can provide some of the stuff Hostess Sister did so that women can feel more safe. And one of the biggest ones is having more female moderators and female community leaders, because I hate to say this as an ambassador, ex-ambassador of Couchsurfing, I don't know how many people know this, but we check the ambassadors list, we like pretty extensively, and we're really shocked to find like 22% of the female ambassadors were women. And I was like, this is really like kind of an indication of how little this community is functioning, because when you have such a poor representation, like, people don't see the problems. And yeah, we're hoping to change that in a lot of ways, but it's going to start from having community leaders and in the communities that are female. And we're hoping to recruit a lot of those actively, because we do a lot of active recruitment at Couchers. Like, we'll come contact you and be like, hey, come be with us. Don't be surprised.
So another case in point, Emily, we have like same feedback. So someone says like they like the idea of using software to allow women to only show their profile to other women. What do you think about that, Nichole? You think like that's that could be like a reliable tool, or what do you think about that?
I would say whatever makes people comfortable, the more options, the better, honestly. And I don't know if the men are going to fuss about that and say it's not fair. You know, I think it should go both ways. If you're a man and you want to hide your profile to women, okay. So I think safety is very important, and whatever we need to do to get to that ultimate safety goal and grow the community and make sure everybody feels safe and included, let's do it.
Yeah, thank you. I honestly, like, what I feel, I've never hosted, like, I always use like the Hangout, like the Hangout function of Couchsurfing. I've always like felt a bit like a bit scared, like, to host like a man like that I don't know. So let alone like someone from abroad, you know. So like there should be like, if there were more like on any platform, right? Like if there were more like ways to make sure that like it's a bit more or less safe, then like I think it would be like much more it would encourage people, you know, because I think like a lot of people, like there were many there were not so many maybe, but there could be incidents, right? So like a lot of people, like I think personally they use Couchsurfing like or other platforms as a dating, not as like for using their main functionality. So there should be, I think, like I think either Couchers or Couchsurfing, any platform, they should like kind of like filter the profiles and be able to block like whoever members like who behave in a certain way, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Sarah. It's a great point.
Thank you. So so I think like that's pretty much it, unless you have anything else to add. So would you like to say anything else about your respective platforms, about encourage people to join Couchers and
I have two
Nichole?
things to say, I guess. One is
Yeah.
that if you are
Sure.
building a community, regardless of what platform you are, I think the number one thing is consistency. A strong community, like, you have to meet at the same time, the same place, you know, on a regular basis. It's super important. I think it's the single thing that I've seen over the past 15 years grow communities around in Couchsurfing. So that's the number one thing. So that's my little advice to you guys if you need any. I hope you all build really great communities that I can come join. And the second thing I just wanted to say is that if you are a member of our community, we're in a really good feedback loop right now with the community. So if you give us community, we'll take it into consideration. If we have a question, we'll ask our community back and forth. So I hope that's what will help Couchers community build in a really strong way. If you think for a second that like you've got a good idea that the other platforms are not doing, like, we're probably the most likely to try it. So you can definitely share it with us. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. What about you, Nichole?
I think that's really it for me. You know, good luck to all of you in your current reopening situations. I definitely agree with Emily that consistency is a good thing. We've got our main weekly event going. It was about once a month. Now we're going to get back to once a week. And then there's still an ongoing, you know, just like having a WhatsApp group. People are always doing stuff. Hey, I'm going hiking. I'm doing this. Who wants to join? So stay with the consistency, but also throw little things out there here and there. And you never know what could come of it.
Thank you. And for both of you, so Marcel, just one minute. So before like you both go, like I would like to introduce myself. So I'm like, you know, both know like I'm from Couchsurfing for over 4 years. And I'm still a member, but like not active anymore. And I'm also like I'm also CL Polyglot Club Tennis. It's an international language and culture exchange club, and I've been hosting events online for over a year, since April of last year. So I would very much like to stay in touch with both of you, with all actually. So I can share the link. I can share the link if you want here in the chat, and we should definitely get in touch. And I really like the whole like female kind of like solidarity, like girls power. I really like it. Yeah.
Really nice to
So
meet you both too, Nichole. It was
thank
really
you.
cool to see you. Hope
Thank
I'll
you.
make it to Texas someday. Never been there.
It's a nice place. It's still it's not too hot right now, so
Yeah.
please see you.
So yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Nichole.
Oh, that was it.
Okay. So nothing else to add. So I think I'm done. Like I didn't prepare any questions. Like I just
You're great. You're fine.
yeah, I improvise. Yeah.
You guys can ask me
So
anything anyway. I have a really high visibility profile on the forums of Couchers. I'm sure you'll see me there. You can send me your hate mail.
yeah, I can totally yeah. I mean, thank you. So I'm sharing my my contact, and we should definitely get in touch. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sarah.